For hip external rotation, I'll start with my right leg. What I'm going to be doing with that leg is I'm going to first self-assess, kind of like we did with hip internal rotation. So keeping my knee pretty close to on top of my hip, meaning I'm not going to go into too much hip flexion here. I'm going to assess how far I can rotate such that my left foot comes towards my left shoulder, kind of as if you were kicking a hacky sack. Then you're going to take your left knee and use it to actually bring your foot a little closer to you. But notice how when I do that, I'm not bringing my whole leg closer to me, meaning my knee is staying relatively still and it's just my ankle that comes, so that it happens via rotation rather than via hip flexion, okay? So see how far you can rotate, use your other knee to take you a little bit further, and then you can place your foot on the wall there. You'll have to play around with your distance between your bum and the wall to again make sure that that knee just brings you a few inches past that active range, okay? The other alternative is you could actually do this with your foot on the ground if it's quite limited, or you have the option of placing your foot on a yoga block and doing it like that. That's more of a personal preference. I like to go with my foot up on the wall, so I'll assess my active range, use my knee to take it a little bit further, and then anchor that foot onto the wall there. So once you're in that position, I also want you to think about trying to extend your low back to try and bow into a stretch in that right side hip. So by extend into your low back, I mean try and create space between your low back and the ground by arching your low back up off the ground so that you can slide your fingers underneath your low back, and then you're going to do your best to maintain that. When you do that, most people will feel an increased sensation, a stretching sensation in the back and in the side of that hip. And again, if this is quite limited for you, I encourage you to hit pause and spend a little extra time here. Prime this tissue a little bit more. You're going to get more bang for your buck if you do that. The PAILs contraction, what we're going to be doing is driving our right foot into our left knee, but careful, and make sure you watch this. Careful that you don't do it via hip extension. So if I just think drive my whole leg down, I'm loading hip extension tissue. That's not the stuff we want. We want the deep stuff that's going to give us more bang for our buck on this one. So what I'm going to do is, instead of thinking this motion, I'm thinking this motion. So again, it's as if there's a rod going through my knee into my hip, and I'm trying to spin on that rod as opposed to just pressing the whole thing down. Intent matters, and it matters a lot. So make sure you keep that in mind as you do this. You want to be thinking rotate that hip as opposed to pressing straight down. So again, keeping that little bit of lumbar extension, nice deep breath in, irradiate through both legs, tense everything up, and give me 20% effort driving that foot into that left knee by rotating that hip. Knee stays still. If you need to, you can keep your hand on top just to monitor, not to press it down, but just to make sure that you don't feel an increased force coming up into your hand. Slowly increase to 40%. Keep climbing 60%. Try not to lose that arch in the low back. 80%. And your greatest pain-free effort, driving that right foot into that left knee, thinking rotate that hip. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're going to reverse. I want you to make that foot as light as you can on that knee, but don't let the knee pop up towards you. Then you're going to remove the left knee support, and you're going to try and hold without letting your foot drift away from you. So think pull your foot up to your left shoulder, but without letting your knee come up. The knee stays in place. There's that imaginary rod going through that knee into your hip. You're thinking rotate that thigh, squeeze everything through the front here, and keep holding. Don't let up yet. 3, 2, 1. Now the left knee is going to come back in. We're going to take it up a little bit further, and we're going to slowly relax.